come on, Big. Everyone's saying top four, top four. Of course we're going to be in the top four. Look at the football we're playing.
Top spur?
Keep players fit. We can win the title.
No. What's that?
We're only catching Manchester City. I don't think the others are going to be able to keep pace.
Top spur? No. What's that?
Arsenal, I think, showed that they bottle it. Liverpool, going to Luton and getting a draw, they're not quite there.
Top spur?
Tottenham can win this title.
We've had 6 clean sheets this season. We've been found out.
Tottenham can win this title.
The problem Ange's got, right? He ain't at Celtic no more. He's in the Premier League, and in the Premier League exposes your weaknesses.
Look at the football we're playing.
They figure you out.
Top spur?
Spurs have been found out.
Tottenham can win this title.
Ange's been found out.
Tottenham can win this title.
Welcome back to the Top 6 show. Smash like buttons, subscribe, make sure bell notifications are turned on. Big shout out to our title sponsors, Match Bingo. You can play now. I'm actually going to show you guys something. This is my bingo card for tonight, Crystal Palace versus Manchester United. Scan the QR code, click on the link below, join in to win your share of the grand prize. But a little bit more on them later. Got an excellent panel for you tonight. Egal back with us again. Man like Nobbins, it's been a long time no see, my friend. I know you've been busy sending out all those legal letters on behalf of City the last few days. But
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it.
But welcome back. Welcome back. Kate is here with us. Oh, there she is. There's Kate. Cheers, bruv. Henry. Henry is here again, a.k.a. Uncle Fester. They call him that because of his eyes. He has got Uncle Fester's eyes. It's true. It's very, very true. And man like Staffy, you've got 3 Spurs fans all along the bottom. 3 Spurs fans on one show.
I'm a Knicks fan today. That's
How are you all? You're all well. You're all good.
Very good.
I'm doing good. And Staffy, you claimed Tottenham at the beginning of the season. Don't disown them now.
If you said it, Egal, doesn't mean I claimed it. You just wanted to say it.
No, you said that. You claimed Tottenham at the beginning of the season. You're like, since there's no Tottenham rep on this show, I'm gonna rep Tottenham today. That's what you said on numerous shows.
I've been here for 6 months, Egal. You think I remember what I said on every show if I was serious or if I was joking? If you
Egal's
said
got
it,
receipts, man. He needs to pay close
I'm
attention.
not surprised,
I could probably pinpoint the day, the episode, the channel. Anyways, let's not do that.
It's a bit scary, Egal, if you can. It's a bit scary.
When it comes to other people's bad takes, or things they get wrong, Egal is like Rain Man. He remembers it, bro. He remembers it so accurately when it's other people.
He's a bookkeeper, bro. That's what he does. He's a bookkeeper. He 100%.
Ramen here says, big up Terry for bringing back Nobbins. You made my dreams come true.
That's lovely. That's very lovely. I've just been busy and there's been like personal stuff going on, but so that's why I wasn't here for a while. But yeah, I'm back hopefully.
People dream about Nobbins. That's weird.
Big up the panel and chat is what the Mad Hatter says. Absolutely. A happy Monday, Terry and panel. Yes, bank holiday Monday here in the UK, so everybody's off work, which is nice.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's basically like 2 Sundays on the bounce. It's really, really good. Terry finally found a City. Oh, come on, Macavia. That's such a bad joke now. It's dead. Come on now. Sophia, hope you're very, very well indeed. Sophia, we'll start with Sophia's team, actually. Manchester United. We play tonight. No Rashford, no Bruno Fernandes. How much better will Man United play now, Staffy? Because according to the Tacticos, you drop these two and Man United become a superior team. Will that be the case tonight?
Oh, now I'm the United fan, but a second ago I was the Spurs fan until I have to talk about this mess of a team. I mean, we're not going to play good football regardless, because forget about Bruno, forget about Rashford, forget actually anything about the midfield and going forward. You don't have a back line. Why does it matter? We don't have a back line. Johnny Evans, funny enough, we had this conversation in the summer when we signed Johnny Evans, and we thought it was some type of charity. Johnny Evans, legend of the club. He was from the academy. His wife works for the club. Oh, let's just have him train with us in the preseason tour. Oh, let's just give him, a contract. He's probably not going to get any minutes anyways. Funny enough, we're in May, and he's our only fit center back going into a away game at Selhurst Park. That's crazy. It's crazy. We don't have any center backs available other than Johnny Evans, who's about 35, 36. I don't even know his age. Trained once last week on a Thursday because he just came back from an injury, which, by the way, if you're wondering why he got injured, we brought him on in a game where he wasn't fully fit, and we had to sub him off after 20 minutes. I couldn't even tell you what game it was because we've had so many injuries in the past month or two that I just lost track. and we're gonna play a back line of Dalot, Casemiro, Evans, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So if we don't play good football, it's not because Bruno and Rashford are not there. It's just because we literally don't have a back line. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. And by the way, Ten Hag managed to break down the unbreakable. Bruno has never missed a game in his career due to injury. Ten Hag said, "Hold my beer. I'm gonna break the streak." And there you go. He broke a streak.
Has Ten Hag taken any accountability for these injuries, or is he just putting it all down to bad luck? Because it's pretty clear that it's due to his training methods and it's due to how he set up Man United. Is there any accountability at all, or is he just like, "Oh, it's all bad luck. It's out of my hands"?
Is that a real question, or are you saying that in a sarcastic?
I've not watched Ten Hag's thing, so it's a genuine question.
Asking if Ten Hag took accountability is like asking if a chicken can fly.
Chicken can.
Chickens can fly, can't they?
No, not like a bird. Like, get out of here. What are you talking about?
He's a bird. I'm googling this now. I don't know. Can chickens fly?
Can't fly.
I think they can glide.
Hang on.
Chickens can't fly.
Hang on. Listen. Wait. This comes from USA Today. I don't know how credible that source is. It says yes, chickens can fly, but not for long distances. So unlike other birds, chickens are not bred to fly. That's true. Most domesticated chickens are born for food, not flight. That's the best line I've ever read in my life. But they can fly.
The say is when pigs fly, but you somehow made a chicken fly.
So in this analogy, is Ten Hag a flightless bird, or what?
Ten Hag taking accountability is like asking if a fish can swim. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. But no, he hasn't taken. Listen, what I love about it is not every injury is going to be his fault, okay? Some of it will be the medical team. Some of it will be bad luck. But of course, you have to look at how many injuries that we've had, the muscle injuries, the consistent breakdowns, rushing people back. What I love about the people that support Ten Hag through thick and thin is that they just ignore all of that stuff. And that, for me, is where you've got to have balance. So do I blame every injury upon him? Absolutely not. But there has to be some accountability. There has to be. But our injury record this season is beyond a joke. No fit, proper first-team centre-backs at the football club, as an example. I think we've had, on average, 15 to 16 people out for every game this year. And that's also contributed to us being poor. I've never denied that. If we had a strongest available 11 for most games, would we be in a better position? Most likely. However, the manager's been building this squad for 2 years, renewing certain contracts, and then it's his medical team and his training methods. You put that all together, it's a shit show. And I'm sorry to say that. Oh, you like praising rivals, Terry, but you can't say nothing nice about your own club. What nice things are there to say about Man United right now? I think I'm being nice by being honest. If I'm being fair, but yeah, I'm worried about tonight. How do you see it going tonight, Henry, for United away at Crystal Palace?
Tough place to go. They've won. I think they've won their last two home games. I think it was West Ham and Newcastle, and they won. Well, they battered West Ham, but that's not exactly difficult at the moment. But they look
undefeated in four. Undefeated.
Sorry?
They're undefeated in their last four.
Yeah, he's got Glasner's very underrated coach. I think he won the Europa at Frankfurt. That whole campaign, Frankfurt were playing good stuff. He's come to a Palace team. You know the weapons they've got. You know they've got Eze, Mateta, Elise, and your defense. I'll be astonished if you keep a clean sheet. I mean, is it Maguire's now out for 3 weeks as well? I don't think you're going to win. The problem is you have to win tonight if you want to. Because Chelsea are breathing down your necks. We've just dropped points as well. I mean, us dropping points at the moment is pretty much guaranteed the way we're playing. You have got to win tonight because you've got Arsenal on Sunday, another very, very tough game. And if you want to make sure that you're in a Europa League position going into next season, you've got to win. But I don't see a world in which you do. If Bruno Fernandes is out and he was playing in that 10 role, we know how good he's been the last few games. If Rashford's out, if your back four is kind of like all over the place. If you win, it's going to be a scrappy 1-0. It's going to be a goal from a set piece. It's going to be Palace are going to dominate the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if Palace have 58, 60% possession tonight. I would not be surprised. And for you boys, it's all about getting into Europe, getting into next season and bringing a new manager in. Like if Ten Hag is going to go to Bayern, whoever you get, you need to appoint soon so they get a pre-season so he can get his new players in. But to answer your question, I don't see a world in which Man United win tonight. And that's not me being anti-Man United. It's just the level of injuries you've got and the form you're in. I mean, how you didn't beat Burnley. I mean, Burnley are terrible.
Don't
Like,
say
they
too
are-
much. We've
Burnley
got
are
them
fighting
next.
for their life.
Yeah, I'm not expecting us to beat Burnley either, by the way. I'm just putting that out there.
Burnley are fighting for their life. The thing is, Manchester United, the only thing you have to play for now is the FA Cup. I know league positions and pride for your last couple games, your last home game and everything, but it just seems like everything is building up for that FA Cup game. I think if these guys had a meaningful game today, would Harry Maguire miss this game due to injury, or would he thug it out and still play? If Bruno Fernandes, if this game was a meaningful game, would he have still thugged it out and played, or would he have missed the game due to injury? I think, you know what, if you guys had something serious to play for, some of these players still might have been on the pitch. At this point, it just seems like a precaution for the FA Cup, knowing that that's your biggest game remaining for the season, and you don't want any more further injuries leading up to that game. So it could be just to protect these players leading up to the FA Cup final.
I do get that to a certain degree. The issue I have, if that's the way we're going, is if you look at Chelsea right now, they're playing themselves into really good form. And if Chelsea were to play Man City this weekend or the weekend after in an FA Cup semi-final, they might beat them now because that confidence is starting to grow. If Man United have any chance of beating City in that final, we have to try and play ourselves into a bit of form before it. We are so bad right now. It's almost identical to the end of last season. There was very few United fans who had any faith or believed there was any real hope that we would deliver in the FA Cup final based on just how poor we are. We can't keep clean sheets. We can barely score. We can't control the ball. It's hard to control a game against City, even if you're one of the best teams in the world. But we can't even defend resolutely. So I don't even have faith that we could sit behind the ball for 90 minutes and stink out a 1-0. Because by the way, if we did that and won 1-0, I'm going to celebrate because it's still a trophy. And that's what matters in the cold, hard light of day, especially in cup competitions. But yeah, I'm just, part of me is looking forward to the FA Cup final because I love the FA Cup. But I am just counting down the days until the season ends and we will get a reset in the summer. And we know that we're moving in multiple new directions in certain departments, but hopefully pulling all together and moving on as one. And I just can't wait, honestly. I had a really good weekend this weekend in terms of family time with friends, enjoyed the football that was on. And at this moment, I got in the car this morning and I realized why it was such a good weekend, because I hadn't watched my team play. Not watching Man United makes me feel we are that bad at football right now. And I got called out by United fans a few weeks ago, but the way I was called out tells me I'm right. We are the worst footballing team in England. I don't think there's a team, pound for pound, I said, I don't think there's another team in England that plays as badly as we do, pound for pound. I genuinely believe that. I've watched a number of League One and League Two games this year. Now, of course, we would beat those teams, generally speaking. If we played them 100 times, we'd win 99 of them easily. They play better football than we do.
It's not a bad claim. I mean, when you look at a team like Ipswich, the back-to-back promotions with McKenna, big up McKenna, obviously every time, you know, and rightfully so, earn their spot into the Premier League next season. But when you see a team with League One players win the championship, because yes, no one really ever does a double promotion like that. Like back-to-back promotions is unheard of. And that's a team that doesn't really have money and a lot of quality, but they have a proper coach that came in and made that team play good football and got League One players to win the championship. And he's about to have League One players in the Premier League, you know? So it's not a bad claim when you say that pound for pound, we are one of the worst teams out there. We are probably the worst coach team in England, and somewhere in Europe, we're up there in the ranks because we're such a bad coach team. Like there's no denial. And today I'm hearing people saying, the Ten Hag-inners defending him, saying, how are you expecting him to win when he doesn't have a backline? Well, I'm sorry, how long has this backline issue happened for? What, the past 3-4 weeks? Let's say a month. I'm going to give you a whole month. What happened before that month? Why are people acting like all of a sudden we became bad because we lost our backline? We've been a bad team. We've been a bad team for about a good part of 2 years. You know, so why are we acting like this is new? If people were saying, okay, people were saying we got to lay off Ten Hag because, like, how is he expected to win at Palace today with a team like that? I will be honest with you. If we lose today, the first thing, it's not going to be the first thing I say. I'm not going to scream after the game like, oh my God, Ten Hag out because we lost to Palace. I don't need to say that because, like, it's been known from before it. If I could ever give him an excuse, it's probably today. I'll be like, yeah, I understand we didn't win because we don't have a backline. But I'm under no delusion that if we had a backline today, we would have played good football. Because I haven't seen us play good football for large parts, as I said, of 2 years. when we've had our squad fit sometimes at 100%, 90%, 70%, or 50%. So I feel like the Ten Hag inners now are unfortunately going to use this as an excuse to say, see, just give him some time and back him a little bit more. I can't see that. I can't see that at all.
Do you think he lost the dressing room and it's done? Like he's gone anyways?
I don't know about
I
loss
think
of
for once that the players seem to actually they want to like Ten Hag. I think for the most part, this is like one of the in terms of like post Fergie, one of like the times where that you can tell the players on the pitch are actually trying really hard to implement what Ten Hag wants them to implement. His methods are just fundamentally flawed. I don't think it's the players turning their back on him. I just don't think that logistically what he's coaching, as Staffy said, which I agree with in terms of like maybe being the worst coach team in the league. They're sort of like failing by definition because he's asking them to do an impossible job. And I think the players are actually genuinely, for once, trying really hard. It's not like where they're down tools against Mourinho or Van Gaal or whatever.
Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt, but can I ask the super chatter here? What lies that? First of all, you're so quick to send a super chat every time I say something. It's actually it's scary. Can you tell me what I said that was a lie so far? Because there's 5 people on the panel that could have stopped me and told me stop lying. Can you tell me what I lied about? I just want to know what I lied about for my own curiosity. Maybe I just have no awareness of what I'm saying. So please educate me.
Yeah, I don't think you lied. You gave an opinion. Not everyone's going to agree with every element of it, but I don't think you told any lies. What was really, I agree with Nobbins, by the way. I don't think people have down tools per se. Some will look at it and go, I don't see Rashford run enough. I see Rashford run enough plenty. There's times where he don't. There's times where he does. People moan about the midfield, and I'd look at it and think, well, there's holes in it for a reason. They can't sprint every minute of every game with the way we have holes everywhere. But interestingly today, Ten Hag's linked now with a move to Bayern Munich, who have been rejected by at least 4 managers. And Tuchel himself has spoke publicly about they're not keeping me. I'm moving on, whatever happens. And now Bayern Munich are reportedly looking at Erik Ten Hag. I mean, Kate, does that make any sense to you?
Nothing makes sense to me with that team ever since they took Eric Dyer. It's just a bonkers situation. Do you know what? Nothing. If Sam Allardyce got the job there, I wouldn't be surprised. You know what I mean? It's just the most bonkers. I don't know what's going on at that football club at all. I mean, ours isn't as much of a shambles, but no. I still think Erik Ten Hag will be at Man United next season. I've just got a feeling that he's going to be there next season, and I kind of hope he is, just to watch Staffy's meltdowns every week. But if he does go to Bayern Munich, then what a manager they've got! What an absolute beaut of a manager they've got going their way.
He did work with the Bayern B team, no? So it's like he does have a history there.
Yeah, but it's madness. Come on. If he goes there and signs a 2-year deal, Xabi Alonso, when he leaves Leverkusen, will have 3 league titles. Erik Ten Hag is not going to go to Man United and win the Bundesliga. And if anyone thinks he is... Sorry?
Bayern, you said United.
Sorry. Yeah, if he goes Bayern, isn't he? He's linked with Bayern, though, isn't he? If he goes to Bayern, Leverkusen win the title for the next 3 years. No chance. Like, he's tactics, the way they play, and Bayern Munich are on the decline. Like last year, they won the league title on goal difference, and that was only because Dortmund fell over in the last few weeks. And this year, they've been absolutely outclassed by Bayer Leverkusen with a better manager than Ten Hag.
I'm going to defend Bayern Munich for a second here. When you actually look at their league title wins over the last 4 or 5 years, very similar amount of points to what they have now. I know they lost at the weekend, but I haven't looked, but I'm assuming they rested a lot of players for their Champions League game because they would have lost the title. They've got a similar amount of points. And although I don't look at points totals as the ultimate barometer, and they certainly weren't able to match Bayer Leverkusen this year, but they haven't heavily declined in terms of just fallen off this year. They're in and around the same level. Equally, I'm going to defend Ten Hag. This is where Oral Campbell might like this if you watch. I know you still watch it, brother. Definitely still watch him. I don't think Ten Hag's a bad manager just because he's fouled at Man United. I do agree with some of his supporters that the lack of structure at our club has led to this problem, because I don't think he should have been given carte blanche control, building things in his image, getting all the players he wants. There should have been a club structure. I've been talking about it for years. My reason for wanting him to go isn't because I don't think he's capable of a coach in the right system and setup of getting a team playing nice football, because we've seen it before. I just think to start all over again at Man United, I want everything gone. The only thing you can't get rid of entirely is the playing squad, because you can't get rid of 23 players in 1 year. I actually think there's still a very good manager inside Erik ten Hag. I still think there is. And in the right system, with the right setup, where he doesn't have, and he's never going to have control at Bayern Munich, because no manager has control at Bayern Munich. You go in there to coach the team. I think that's where someone like Ten Hag would absolutely thrive. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Bayern Munich and wins them some major trophies. I've said it before. I don't think he's going to leave Man United and fall off and have an awful career and never be seen again. I still think there's a decent manager in there. Everything that's happened to Ten Hag is what I predicted, based on if we didn't get new owners and we didn't get a new structure early enough. He has been poisoned. And the example I always use is this. If you've got wood that's rotten in your joists in your roof, and you just essentially now fresh wood, strong wood over the top of it or around it, at some point that wood rot is going to get into the new wood. And what's happened at Man United to every manager is that rot has set in quicker and quicker almost each time, because it's getting worse and worse. And what we actually need is to rip the whole goddamn roof off and start again from fresh. We actually need a whole entire foundation. But yeah, I'm not surprised by these links. And the only issue you're going to have with it is, if he's like 5th or 6th choice, what message does that send to the playing staff? When you guys got Nuno, I know I think he was number 13. He was never going to work at Spurs when the whole playing squad knew that he was the 13th choice, because you got rejected by 12 other people. It's I don't know. It's just, if you found out, Kate, that Jimmy Boy had proposed to 4 other women before you, would you have married him?
Well, I know he was engaged 18 times before me. Does that count? And that's true. That's a true story.
Oh, sorry.
But what I will say, getting away from
is your husband Del Boy? Is he Del Boy?
Getting away from Jim's ever exotic love life. I agree in the fact that you can't become a bad manager overnight. And what he did at Ajax, I just think maybe he just isn't the right fit for Man United. And
maybe he's a system manager. Maybe he's a manager who needs.
Ten Hag needs the best players in the league, and I've said that before. He had the best players in his team in Ajax, and if he goes to Bayern, he arguably has the best team in the league as well.
No, but
if he goes there and he performs well, I wouldn't be surprised. I said before, he will never have the best 11 in England. Factually, no one will. Not even City, who win the league every year, have the best 11. They have the best squad, but they don't have the best player in every position. When you look at Ten Hag at Ajax, he had the best players, and that's why he did what he did. And I'm not going to discredit him. Obviously, he got them to play good football.
Staffy, what about
if he goes to Germany, it's the same thing. I'm sorry?
What about the support system? Because maybe he doesn't also have the support system at Manchester United.
But he's not going to get the support system at Bayern Munich either, because they're just as much of a, they need to be ripped out from top to bottom. When Oliver Kahn called out their entire ownership structure in a press conference and said a lot of own truths, he was sacked the following day. That a week after that, or 2 weeks after that, there's all this talk about Tuchel not staying at the end of the season. If Erik ten Hag doesn't get off to a winning start, the German media, they're like vultures. They will be on him much, much worse than the UK media are. Much worse. You see Bild and Sky Sports Germany, they will be destroying him. I just don't think Ten Hag, like, when we say win major honours, do we mean a Bundesliga, Champions League, or do we mean the German Cup? Because
I just mean keep winning Bundesligas with Bayern.
The way the Bayer Leverkusen team are set up, they might lose a few. There's talk of Wirtz going to City. There's talk of Frimpong going to teams like that. They might lose a few, but they'll bring a few back in. Bayern Munich need 4 of that 11 ripped out and changed. Which are they going to do in one summer window when everyone else is looking for similar personnel? I don't know. I just don't think Ten Hag, in terms of like the way Ajax performed, from their academy to their first team, everyone plays a similar style of football, and you are bringing through some of the best young talent in Europe. Bayern Munich have spent big money on a Kim Min-jae, who's absolutely toilet. There's talk of Neuer leaving. I don't know why they got rid of Sommer, who went to Inter Milan. There's talk of Gnabry, Sane leaving. That's a big, big job. And if Erik ten Hag, yes, he may not have performed at Man United. If he doesn't then perform at Bayern Munich, his next job is going to probably be someone like Lazio.
Or Spurs.
Yeah, or we'll probably take him. We'll take Max Branning. That Bayern Munich.
You already
job,
rejected him, don't worry.
That Bayern Munich job is not just win a league title. You've got to win the Champions League within 3 years of your management role. I don't think Ten Hag's that manager, personally.
I don't know. I think Ten Hag, I mean, it's funny because he hasn't done it at this club per se, but I just think that there's lots of managers now in football, even if we move away from him. De Zerbi's one, Big Ange is another, where they typically speaking have a set style of play. And Ten Hag, that's the weirdest thing about Ten Hag. He hasn't implemented what we all expected him to do at the club. But I think that most of those managers, in truth, just need an opportunity at the biggest and the best clubs to really showcase how good they are. I think it's harder managing at clubs where maybe that's where Ten Hag has also struggled. This is where I would give him sympathy. He hasn't been given the best squad in England. And a lot of people struggle when they don't have the best possible squads. There's very few managers out there that can do what Arteta's doing at the moment, which is I'm going to adapt based on who I'm playing and what's available to me. People just go, I'm playing this way, mate. That's not a dig at Big Ange, by the way. And that's what they try and go with. So I don't know. I think he could do well away from us. But viewers, look, give us your thoughts and give us your feelings. I appreciate that. 100 membership. All guys will eat every word for supper next season when Ten Hag turns it around. But it's on your calendar, Terry. Listen, I look at it this way. If Ten Hag stays, I want to be wrong. This is what people can say. I have an agenda. I don't have an opinion. An agenda would be not admitting when I was wrong. And if next season we are cooking and we are in that title race and we look amazing, then I'll say I'm so glad I was wrong. And then I'll get straight on to supporting him. That for me is just how football has always been and should always be. You can have good opinions and bad opinions. I remember I was living in Manchester when Man United signed Cristiano Ronaldo. The amount of Mancs, local born and bred season ticket holders that were like, who's this? Who's this? Especially the first season. Too many step overs, not enough of this, more end product needed. People didn't rate him. I remember sitting in a pub after Man City beat Man United in a Manchester derby when Vidic and Evra made their debuts. It was it wasn't a 12:30 kickoff. It used to be 12:45 back then. And we all left and everyone was like, what is this crap we have just signed? And people wrote them off. A year and a half later, you were looking at two players, looking at two of the best defenders in European football. And football fans have always got things wrong. They've got some things right. It's just about holding your hands up. So, yeah, for me, I hope if he stays, I hope you're right, Oral Campbell, because I want Man United to be successful. I really, really don't want to be correct.
And if they don't, Oral Campbell, since you want to write checks you can't cash, you better still do it here. And I expect the same on my channel. Because you come on here every show that I'm on.
Hang on a minute. This is why are you taking food out my mouth, bro?
No. I said here and my channel.
I'm joking.
Look, he's always on my case when I'm here. So I expect you, since you have a big check, you do that on my channel.
You know I'm all about my panelists and their platforms and that growing stuff. That's why.
I'm just saying.
Man United fans who want Ten Hag out already wrong. Fine, you're allowed that opinion, bro. You're allowed that opinion. And look, we'll see what happens. We will see what. Equally though, Oral, say he does leave, we get someone new, and next season we're cooking. And Ten Hag isn't doing very well. Would you then say you were wrong? Would you admit that as an individual? I'd love to know. Make sure like buttons are being smashed, people. Make sure you are subscribing. We've got a few other super chats here. First one says Bruno broken finger. He ain't no way he's out with a broken finger.
His hand is in a cast though. I think he's missed because of that.
Still not good enough to
knowing Bruno, he would play, but it has to be something else. And by the way, Aura, we never mentioned what kind of injury.
Yeah,
I joked when I said he broke Bruno. I don't actually mean that Ten Hag broke Bruno, bro. Like he didn't fight.
Took a hammer to him.
Yeah, like he actually broke him, bro.
I want to point this out as well. It's a common misconception that chickens are truly flightless. I got this off the internet. In fact, I know what that word means. Anatomically, but based on their anatomy, they can fly like any other bird. This is the cruel bit. Not the cruel bit, because I eat them, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite. But it's uncommon to see chickens fly due to the excess weight on their legs and breast due to farming and breeding programs. So basically, they're fed up so much to feed us that they're too fat to fly.
That's the reason I can't fly, because of the excess weight on the breast and legs. That's exactly the same reason.
Go on, Jimbo. Go on, Jimmy boy. We are way better than Chelsea. Stop lying, Tell. You think Man United are better than Chelsea? If you think that, For me, it's a micro penis competition. They're both tiny, bruv. They're both little.
No, let's not lie. Chelsea actually play good football. It's just
they play better football than us, no doubt.
They don't have the quality.
Guna Carlos says, "Hey Terry, what do you recommend on Brickhouse Nutrition for burning fat and losing weight?" I recommend good healthy diet and their Field of Greens range for the nutrition. There are other supplements they provide. I'm not an expert on that. I would say you consult with somebody your end before doing that. Also, someone else mentioned Brickhouse. It is available in Canada. It's actually an American-based company. It's available all over the world. Go check out Brickhouse Nutrition. It's amazing stuff. It is pricey, but it is the dog's danglies, I'm telling you. It really, really is. Did you all see? I'll come back to the Haaland stuff later. Backline out with only 3 weeks. Are you joking? Nice, your manager, bruv. Hot take. Okay, we'll come back to the Odegaard stuff. Have you received your cease and desist letter from 115 SC? Goldbridge received one, and that's publishing tomorrow. Look, I've got a very much feeling it's going to be a bit of a satire joke of a comment from Goldbridge. I very much doubt. We know for a fact he hasn't done it because Manchester City Football Club have now briefed outlets that they have not sent legal action to YouTubers, just as I told you all the other day. Because as Nobbins will probably explain better than me, having an opinion based on a credible article from the Times is very unlikely to get you into court.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like City Extra, as you say, confirmed that the story's not true. Re Goldbridge. So yeah, people will be disappointed, I think.
Yeah, I know. I wish I did get White Bill. Do you can imagine how good the content would be if I was holding that letter up on the screen saying, "Look what City sent to me. Please stop being mean to us, Terry. We don't like it." Oh my word! City fans, your club is not that. Your club isn't pathetic in any capacity. No way would they do that ever. Firstly, he's been abysmal as a manager this season, but let's be serious. If he was on the open market now, multiple clubs would be after him. Hate that. Have one bad season defines your CV for life. It's a good point. It is a good point. It is a good point, Joshua Jack. Moving on from that, I did want to mention City, actually, and to this super chat. Did you see that Haaland walk-off? Was Roy Keane slamming him for being a brat? Has kind of hit the headlines on across socials. Nobbins, do you agree with what Roy Keane has said? Is it disrespectful and wrong and bratish for Haaland to be upset at coming off? Does it show disrespect to your club?
No, I think that Roy Keane is a very confused, bitter, old man who is a bit upset that Erling Haaland has come into England and in one season equaled what he achieved, what his greatest achievement was whilst he was in England in respect of winning the treble. There's obviously a family beef in that respect. He's made ridiculous comments throughout the season, including but not limited to saying that Haaland's general play is that of a League Two player. He then proceeded to double down and triple down on that take because he actually doesn't possess any analytical skills, it appears. He just likes to make sound bites and be a clickbait pundit, which is a shame. If anything, it should be the opposite. Surely, if a player is not happy about being taken off, surely you look at it and go, yeah, he's hungry for more. He wants to score more goals. Aguero did a similar thing against Newcastle when he scored 5, and it was only like the 60th minute. Pep took him, and Pellegrini took him off, and Aguero was angry because he wanted to score more because he wanted to break the record. If anything, it's the opposite. It speaks of the hunger of the player and the desire of the player. And if anyone is going to be criticizing other individuals in respect of emotional outbursts and petulance and relying on emotions, the last person who should be doing that is Roy Keane, who notoriously cried and had a bitch with the Ireland camp and did the same with Manchester United. So he needs to have a bit of a reality check. If he's being serious about it, I imagine he isn't. I imagine he's just doing it because he wants to get the clicks. It's about as ridiculous as him saying that Haaland is a League Two player, a striker in respect of the hold-up play. It's a soundbite which holds no weight or water or meaning. And again, it just speaks of petulance, being a crybaby, and jealousy. That's all I can really put it down to.
Well, do you agree with that, Kate? Do you think it's just a lot of saltiness and dare I say it, clickbait from Roy Keane and Sky?
Yeah, Roy Keane's a prick. I think everyone can admit that he's a prick. He might have been a great player,
should have
but
just
he's
said
got
that.
too much. He's got too much to say for himself. Nobbins, I'm not going to go all like not limited to and do all the nice talking that you do. I'm just going to call him what he is, and he is a prick. He's just trying to keep himself relevant by saying ridiculous things. If that had been a Man United player coming off and having a hissy fit, he would have gone, oh, this is what we love to see, the passion. He wants to stay on and fight for his team. He's so salty, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, I just think he's an idiot. Sorry, that's my opinion.
I like
Listen, he was asked the question. He gave you guys his opinion. If you guys don't like it, the reality is his delivery has never been like other pundits. He's always spoken like this, and he doesn't speak like other pundits. That's what people like about him. And you can call it clickbait as much as you want, but I want people to speak like this. I want people to say these kind of things because it's really interesting conversations.
You want people to talk bollocks.
I want more play. I want more personality. I want more personality from the actual pundits. I want more personality from the actual pundits. Like they don't have to get personal.
You'd be crying if it was about
Arsenal. They don't have to get personal.
They
don't have to get personal. But I see this all the time towards my own players. I see this all the time towards other clubs. The fact that it's happening to City, well, you guys are one of the best teams in the world. Erling Haaland's one of the best players. Even if he's playing well, they're gonna find ways to speak about him, and that's just the facts.
Well, can I ask Egal something? Sorry, I want to ask him something real quick. Are you saying that because he said that about a City player, and you said it's been happening to Arsenal players? So is there a little bit of bias there between Arsenal and City, or do you just mean that in general, like you just enjoy the way Roy Keane speaks, whether it's a City player or it's a Sheffield player?
No, I like people showing their personality and actually putting themselves out there and saying something that saying what they actually believe instead of just being status quo and just coming out there saying the same old stuff. Oh, he scored 4 goals. This is what we want to see. This is why we're talking about it. Because the reality is we want these pundits to come out here and give us what they actually feel. Because there's probably a lot of people out there who feel differently about their takes, but they say what's politically correct. Tell me what you actually feel. I rate Roy Keane for actually saying what he actually feels.
I can't rate the opinion of someone who chats shite, to be honest. You shouldn't hide behind that. Oh, but he's saying it raw, and it's if he's talking nonsense, he's talking nonsense. The fact that he's willing to say it shouldn't be a point of pride. If anything, it should be the opposite, shouldn't it? If you're so bold and willing to speak to say stupid things, isn't that a bad thing? Shouldn't that not be applauded? There's a big difference between saying something with personality, but still saying something with sense, and saying something which holds no weight to it and is a load of hokum.
As much as you might want to disagree with him with the Erling Haaland championship player stuff and everything that he
League
said
2.
about
Didn't even say championship, said
whatever he said, League 2, and also what he said about thing. He's a pundit. He's on TV and he's giving us his raw opinion. I would rather he sat there and give us his real opinion than just sit there and say the status quo. You know what? He had a bad game.
I'd rather hear from people who know what they're talking about personally.
You want to know something? There's a lot of people out there you can listen to, but Roy Keane, the reason why he makes headlines is because he actually puts himself out there and says what he actually believes.
Does he make headlines for just talking absolute BS?
No, he makes headlines because this is the personality he has. He's a person who's
he's got personality.
Not scared of backlash.
So I don't you know what it is with Roy Keane? I think there's a combination here. Sometimes he says things and I wouldn't call it clickbait. Sometimes I see him say things and it's like you see a little smirk on his face. Like I've seen him on Sky and when they've gone on the overlap tours, and he might be digging into Sir. Again, he does it to everybody. He'll dig into Sir Alex because he doesn't like him, but there's a little smirk in his face, and I'm like, I think you're doing that with a little bit of jest. But for me, I think he had a go yesterday at Haaland because he was calling him a League 2 player a few weeks before, and he's been rightfully getting roasted for it, and he should be roasted for it because that is a ridiculously poor opinion from a professional football player. I understand that the tacticos and sort of I Test FC online judge footballers like they're ballet dancers, and it's all about how it looks and how entertaining it is. Oh my God, how graceful does he look when he dribbles? And I understand there's an important element of that in football. Haaland is a world-class, elite-level football player because he is already one of the greatest goal scorers that the world has ever produced. By the time he retires, barring injuries, he will be in a group of individual players, maybe where there's only been 20 maybe 30 of them in the history of European football that are scoring upwards of 600 odd goals. That is how good he is. Listen, and I mean this with all due respect, there are far more players in the history of football that can dribble past players, that can do a step over, that can do a drag back, that can do whatever the other skills are called. Scoring at that level, if he moves into a group, there are only 20 human beings. And how many billions of people, how many hundreds of millions, how many billions have played football from the playground right through to professionals over the past 130 years that can do what Haaland does? What, 20 odd people, 30 odd people? To ever refer to that as a League Two player based on, but on ability. What the fuck does that mean? It's absolutely horrendous punditry on every single level. The professionals should be the ones turning around to people online and saying, what do you mean based on ability?
That's the problem, though, Terry. No one will challenge him.
There are people that think Wilfried Zaha is a better football player than Haaland. They genuinely believe it because he's got
no one will challenge him.
Ridiculous.
No one will. When he comes out with his quote unquote opinions, no one in the studio will actually attack that opinion. Everyone just kind of thinks what they think and they just move on to the next subject. Roy Keane as a player and as a captain was an unbelievable captain, a very, very, very top player who won the top of the top honors. So naturally, when he comes out with these things, he can kind of back up and say, well, hang on, I've won at the very, very top level. That doesn't necessarily mean you can come out with the most outrageous takes. Like, yes, Haaland's had a bit of a drop-off this season compared to last season. But even his drop-off is still better than everyone else's best season. Like, yes, his all-round game might not be as good as Harry Kane, but he still scored 37 goals or whatever it is this season. Like, and to say whoever said Wilfried Zaha is a better footballer,
no one has specifically said that to me.
I'm just saying, if anyone has said that,
a little bit facetious, a little bit pedantic and facetious, really, in the sense of that's how some people view football. That certain individuals have certain attributes and skill sets that if a player can do those things well, they hold them above other individuals that actually deliver more on a professional football pitch. And sometimes this is where I think the pundits have got a job to do, which is, in my opinion, and I feel like growing up. And I know I don't know what they do now because I don't watch any of their stuff. But the punditry when I was growing up, I really felt they taught you about what football was and how to understand it and how things work. The more I look at it now, sometimes I just see weird agendas. You cannot call someone who's... I'm not saying Haaland can't improve his hold-up play. I'm not saying it maybe isn't the weakest area of his play. But to say he's a League Two player... they should do a bet. They should do a bet. Go and get the best League Two number 9 and see if he holds the ball up better in the Premier League than Haaland. It's just crazy talk, and then it creates. And again, people always have a go at me and say, "Oh, you only defend Arsenal." No, I call out all punditry that I think is beyond ridiculous. Scoring goals, whether people like hearing this or not, is the hardest skill in football. It's why, typically speaking, elite level strikers have always been paid the most and have always cost the most throughout the history of football because they are the most finite property, the most finite attribute in the game. And the way it gets played down is so poor. And all the greats, attacking greats we think of from over the years, from Pele to Maradona to Ronaldinho, all these guys, yes, they had all the skills. Yes, their ability, their technique was amazing. But the reason why they are who they are is because of all the goals and assists they got alongside it. See, they had all those skills, but they weren't scoring the goals. They weren't creating the goals. They wouldn't have been the Ronaldinhos and the Peles and the Maradonas. It was a combination of the two. Now, I'm not putting Haaland in a category with those individuals, but he is in a category with the Ian Rushes and the Inzagis and the elite number 9 out-and-out strikers that have existed forever, who are always celebrated. Are celebrated still. But Haaland's doing it in this era, and suddenly it's a bad thing. It really winds me up.
Terry, I think what Henry was talking about, we need more people challenging each other when they're having these debates. Because if somebody's going to say something like that, I actually encourage that. I like hearing these kind of takes from these people. But if in the spot nobody's challenging them and they're having their echo chambers, that's the real problem. Because if you have a post-match press conference, post-match punditry where one person saying something, the other person saying the exact opposite, and neither of them are taking the opportunity to question each other on their opinion, then we're having an echo chamber and nobody's actually listening to each other. And
No,
that's where the punditry needs to improve.
I get that element. I do get that element there, but it was. I just thought it was crazy personally, crazy punditry.
It was crazy, and it's dangerous because he's an incredibly influential pundit. So Egal saying, "Oh, I want to see opinions like this," that's going to lead us down a path of anti-analysis and bad analysis, and people believe him. People have gone, "Oh, well, Roy Keane said it, so it must be true." So what we are doing is that he's influencing however many viewers into believing his terrible take. And it's not enough to say, "Oh, but that's his opinion." All right, well, in my opinion, Lee Catamol was better than Iniesta. You can't challenge it. It's my opinion. No, opinions are based on subjectivity and objectivity. You can't hide behind your opinion. And so yes, we do need to call it out, and we can't just say, "Oh, you can say what he wants." And isn't it cute? The old bitter man is having a go at someone who is the son of someone who he didn't like. No, it needs to be called out for what it is, which is chatting shite.
I agree with you. They should be calling it out, but they should be calling it out there and then.
They should, but they aren't, but they aren't for whatever reason.
That's
which makes it even more dangerous for him to be saying that sort of thing.
That's falling apart. Because before, if I'm not mistaken, or other TV, when I watch other sports, when somebody says something outrageous, you'll have Shaq and Kenny going at each other in the NBA, for example. I don't know what they do in the NFL, but here I don't see it except for Monday Night Football or on the occasion when it's like.
No, I agree with you on that, Egal. But it's the thing is why I've called out so much of the Arsenal stuff in recent years, and I know that there are certain people online, as in like sort of viewers and stuff, that are like, you're twerking for rivals. It's never really been about that, and I've said it on many shows before. It isn't really about Arsenal. It's about the precedent it sets if we allow the lies to become almost the truth or the narrative that is acceptable, if that makes sense. And I don't like it. And there's so much stuff that's been said about Arsenal in the last 2 years, which is so disingenuous to I think football in general, and it isn't applied to everybody else in equal measure, if that makes sense. Gary Neville himself did it yesterday, where he spoke about how Spurs have got to get behind Big Ange, and yes, they've kind of fouled at the end of the season, but there's been some great moments and there's more to come. When Arsenal failed to make top four a couple of seasons ago, it was the best they're ever going to get to. They've got to move on now. There's zero chance they improve. Now, he could have learned from that kind of mistake, but we all see it all the time. If you see two different clubs in two different situations and explain it, but what I would like to see from it was whatever the guy's name is that does it with him. I forget his name. What's his name? The commentator, who's interviewing him. Some of the Sky Sports commentator now that works with Gary Neville.
Jamie Carragher.
No, the actual commentator. Someone in the comments will get it. It was Martin Tyler. It's not anymore.
Peter
Drury. So what I would like to see is Peter Drury say, why does it differ from your opinion at Arsenal at this stage, at this point? Because maybe you can explain why it's different. And also, that's my issue with television punditry. Everything is soundbitey because it's short, where what you actually need is challenge. What you actually need is someone saying, hang on a minute, but I called out Jamie O'Hara and Bonglahor today because they were calling Kai Havertz a diver. But I don't remember seeing footage of Jamie O'Hara calling out Harry Kane every time he left his leg in. So for me, it's a case of, great, you can call him a diver, but I need to challenge why you haven't called out Spurs players for doing it. Gabby, I need to call out why I don't see you doing it when Aston Villa
Grealish, did he? Never called out
exactly, and that's the thing for me. I don't mind people having opinions, but they have to be consistent with them across all clubs, unless they feel there is a fundamental difference. And you're right there, Egal. It should then be challenged so that difference is explained. Otherwise, it is poor punditry, in my opinion. It really is poor punditry in that regard. But
yeah, and I just want to make it clear, I'm not defending Roy Keane and on all his ridiculous takes. I'm just saying, personally, for me, I like a difference of opinion. It's just the manner in which the conversation is started sometimes is not always the way that we should be seeing pundits doing it that are professional, of course.
I totally agree. Anti-analysis, United have dealt with that crap for years. I agree.
Yeah, we have to.
Why are people crying about what Keane said? He just said he is a top striker, but he plays away from his goals like a League One player. It is true, but he doesn't play like a League One player.
Three issues with that super chat. In the first instance, we aren't crying. We are discussing it in an open forum. Complaining about something is not the same as crying. Incorrect thing number one. Incorrect thing number two. He did not say his general play is that of a League One player. He actually said League Two. Get your facts right. Point number three, going back to what I was saying earlier about the danger. It is not true in the slightest. Haaland's general play is better than the majority of strikers in the Premier League. It is, for example, a lot better than Julian Alvarez, who's another Man City striker. I don't see anyone here saying that Julian Alvarez has got the hold-up, link-up, general play of a League Two striker. But Haaland, I promise you, is a lot better than Alvarez at all of that. Thank you for the £5.
Thank you for the super chat. It really is good. Egal says nonsense too. Of course, he backs Keane.
Oh, you got me.
Keane is like my manic uncle. He will always tell you exactly what you do not want to hear, and then revels in the negative reaction. My uncle is in jail now. Yeah, look, I think there's an element of a character he kind of plays up to at times, but it shouldn't get in the way of honest punditry. But I do agree with you, Gal. To keep it honest, the panel must challenge, and they don't. They just leave it. They leave it out there. Don did it the other day on here when I think it was Paddy said that Enzo's got world-class ability, and he just left it there. Does that make sense? No, he said that he would get in. No, it wasn't that. That was a part of the conversation. And then what was his name? The American guy who supports Real Madrid.
KDB.
Will.
Yeah.
He then says that he would drop KDB for Enzo Fernandes because Enzo Fernandes would make City better. But Don just sat there and smiled.
Don wasn't there, Terry.
No, Don was on the show. Don was on the show.
He left by then.
No, Don was on the show at that point still. So from my point of view, this is how I view it. If you just sit there and let that go and you don't say nothing, you're kind of endorsing it to a degree, or you're at the very least you're leaving it out there. But there we go. That's a joke, by the way, Don. Please don't get upset. City fans are so soft, according to Oral Campbell.
Wait, no, but it's cooking too, please.
If we want to live in a world where, again, I like to think I've been relatively calm and composed here and quite eloquent in what I've said. If we want to live in a world where doing that is, quote, crying and, quote, being soft, then sure. Go for it.
Hold that aura.
Have you ever been on a panel with someone who actually believes Erling Haaland's a League Two player?
I don't go on panels with fools.
Terry, you got my £5, you muppet. Wouldn't give you 5p, mate.
Thank you for an extra £2, Paul. Keep wasting your money, matey. Keep going.
You just gave me £2. You wouldn't give me 5p, but you gave me £2 instead.
Let's push it up. Let's push up to 10. Another £3, Paul. Come on, you can do it. I've got faith in you.
Since Haaland left Molde 5 years ago as an 18-year-old, he has scored 200 goals, 40 plus per season since he was 18. That's more goals than Messi and Ronaldo at the same age. It's just ridiculously good. I can't.
The only other striker in the last 25 years to have that level of form at that age was R9.
Yeah, his age in terms of goals. The only striker in European football history with the same amount of goals or more at that age was R9. He is ahead of everybody at this point. And so just saying League Two near his name, it's ridiculous. It shouldn't happen. Criticize areas, of course you should, because most players are not perfect, but it goes too far. Would love Michael Owen to disagree sometimes. Yeah, he basically agrees with everything, didn't he? I disagree. Scoring goals was never the hardest thing. Creativity and running the game is more difficult and rare. That's why number 10s win most MVPs.
Hang on, can I address this? The number 10s in modern day are also very high goal scorers. Like, look at Foden. He can play the number 10 better than most players in the world. He's also got, 20 goals in all comps? Messi was the number 10 at Barca. He got 93 goals in the calendar year. Like, yes, some of these super chats are madness. Other than Messi and Ronaldo and Modric, who was the last number 10 to win a Ballon d'Or?
Kaka?
And that was what, 2005?
7, I think. Was it?
So 16 years ago was the last time a number 10 outside those three won the Ballon d'Or. So
this is I'm looking at the Ballon d'Or winners here. So hang on, I want to do it in year order.
I think Modric did it 2 years ago, didn't he?
So I mean, so this ain't this. Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, so
you can't even call Modric a 10 though.
So Messi won it in 2023. Then it was Benzema, Messi, Mohamed Mudryk. Won it in 2008.
Mudryk.
No,
Luka
Modric. Sorry, my dyslexic.
I have to correct that because Milo Mudryk.
No, I hear you. Kaka in 07. And then obviously you had a defender win it in 06.
Was that Cannavaro?
Yeah. Nedved won it in 03.
left
And
winger.
Figo was more of a winger that won it in 2000. Zidane won it in 98.
Ronaldinho somewhere in there as well.
And then you're going back a bit now. Some of the players, I'm not too sure of their positions, I'll be honest with you, but majority of the winners are strikers and or attackers. So there's something in that, I would say, but that's just my personal opinion. Again, I'm not saying other skills aren't very difficult as well, but scoring goals has always been the hardest thing, in my opinion. Hyperbole is lost on some.
Hyperbole requires there to be an element of truth or reality to the statement. That is what a hyperbolic statement is. Keane was not hyperbolic; he was chatting shite. There is a difference between hyperbole and chatting shite. I don't know. Like, come on, guys, what are we doing?
Please get
He proceeded to then double down on the statement. He was not being hyperbolic. He said what he said. He was then called out on it on the next show. He doubled down on it. This is not a man being hyperbolic. This is a man who believes in what he says.
Or as I just dyslexically said, hyperbole.
I prefer that pronunciation, to be fair. So
no, I said it and then straight away I went, that's not the word, Terry. You just said it wrong. I know what the word is. Anyway, Terry, what a great panel today. Kate, apologize. I missed your live stream today. We'll catch up. We'll catch you on the next one. Where is my man? Data Will. We need stats.
To be fair, Will does have a rule job, guys. So Will can't be here all the time. But he needs to answer for his crimes. I'm not gonna lie. I've been trying to find him myself.
Why did the Ginger City add an ins to his actual names? I'm giving Terry money, not you, you muppet.
You've now wasted £12. Thank you for that. You've also gotten personal, so you've lost the argument by default. The nickname Nobbins is a joke. The whole point is I'm a knob. So well done for not actually understanding the joke. £12 now. Can we go for 20? Let's push for 20.
There was a better joke in there, mate. That involved his mum. I'll tell you off air.
I'm not going to degrade myself to resorting to personal insults.
I do it all the time. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, your mum joke. We live in thank you both for the super chat, Paul. We live in the FIFA era where players who have GA are idolized and actual top ballers like Bernardo Silva. Nobody doesn't. Bernardo Silva is appreciated by everybody. It's nothing to do with idolizing GA. When you go through Ballon d'Or winners over the past 40, 50 years, the vast majority are attackers. We haven't changed now. We just have access to the data as to, we would know, by the way, if the stats weren't, if we didn't go on the internet and there was no social media and we just all sat at home watching the games and went to the grounds, we would all know that Harry Kane, that Haaland have good GA. We just wouldn't call it that because it wouldn't be formulated in that way. We would still see them as the best. Nothing's changed. We just have the data that's behind it now. And Bernardo Silva's rated, my man. Nobbins will be my lawyer if I ever get in trouble.
Only if you pay me enough.
More than $2, definitely. What's your guys? This is an interesting topic today as well. What's your guys' thoughts on Darwin Nunez deleting all these posts, Staffy?
He probably did it on an accident. Someone tweeted and said he's probably trying to set his alarm up. Listen, I don't know the story behind it. that was hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. Listen, I don't know the story behind it. I actually don't know what happened. I watched the game yesterday. I saw him miss the chance, and after the game, they're saying he deleted his Instagram post or he archived it or whatever. I really don't know what's happening there. But last week you have Mo Salah coming out saying, if I speak, there will be fire. Then this week you're hearing Nunez is removing his posts. By the way, I'm tired of footballers removing their posts. Like, how many times do we have to talk about footballers removing their posts? Happens all the time.
It's beginning at the end, though, isn't it? Like when this happens, it's usually
it has to be. And I don't know what happened though, but I will tell you this: I'm absolutely loving it. I'm enjoying it. Long may it continue. You know, Klopp leaving, now Salah's having beef, now Nunez is having beef. Long may it continue. I don't know the story behind it. Sounds a little bit childish if you ask me. I've never been someone who like reacts to social media. Like, I don't like that. Like, there's people, the minute something happens, they just put a story, they put a black picture, they just like delete stuff. I never liked that. I always thought it was
they keep releasing diss tracks to each other. It's all, do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
That's something else. That's generating money.
I like that. I like
that. That's different. If
No,
I
I agree.
diss Egal and I'm making money, hey,
No, I
I'm gonna
agree.
tell
I
Egal,
agree.
you better diss me back.
What I love about it is, listen, I listen. I've got albums of both Kendrick and Drake. I just
I'm
look
still
at it
gonna listen
as,
both. Yeah, I'm hearing both.
it's. I just look at it and I'm like, you don't understand what they're doing. They're making you like listen to their music, and then what people start doing is you go on Spot. Oh, I fancy a bit of Kendrick. You start listening on Spotify, or you download an album. You're making money. They're just bought into it. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm a bit like you.
Say this, though.
I don't get sucked into it, the online stuff either. The fact he's deleted the pictures, does it matter or does it? I don't know.
I think it does. I think it's a come get me plea. Basically, if Liverpool are looking to sell him and there's stuff happening in the background, this is just a sign like he's detaching himself from the club, maybe, because social media is now a way that a way that people get their message across without actually saying things. It's an indirect. And if I'm a Liverpool fan, if you like Darwin Nunez, you might be upset. But if you don't think he's good enough, it's a sign that your club is going to be selling him in the summer.
Can I ask you a question, Egal? I don't know if you've still got it on. I don't look at people's Twitter accounts too often. I'll just look at your Twitter account for a second.
Cheeky plug.
It doesn't say it anymore. You used to have like regular contributor on the terrace in your profile, right?
Okay.
You don't have that on there anymore. I'm not offended. I didn't look at it like this is the thing for me. You've removed your association of your profile with the terrace, right? And it doesn't bother me because it's your profile. I'm not sitting there going, KJ, please make sure Egal's not on the channel anymore. That's my issue with people crying about this. I just look at it and think, it doesn't matter, Eve. Like whether you've got it in your profile or not.
But for a footballer to delete,
Terry, it's very different. It's very different, Terry.
It's
very
different.
That's his 9 to 5. That's his main bread and butter. That's his employer that pays him millions and millions of dollars. It's a different situation to us having a thing where I come on your YouTube channel on a regular basis.
No, I understand there are differences in it, but at the same time, I think both sides. I wouldn't be reacting to it if I was a Liverpool fan. Secondly, how pathetic is it of Darwin Nunez if he's done it out of anger? I'm going to go home and delete my pictures. I just don't understand the youth of today because he is a youth person. Like my little brother and me had a big Barney once because him and his wife, they both got my surname, right? They'd be on Facebook, but they would have their arguments on Facebook publicly.
Okay.
And I said to them at the party, you two are mad doing that. But their friends were like, this is what everyone our age does. I'm like, nah. I said, you ain't doing it. You got the same surname as me. You either change your names or you stop it. Because for me, it's embarrassing. You don't I don't get it. I just don't understand why
I need to ask you this though. If say you have a partner or somebody who's a close friend and you post a lot of pictures with them, you've been on vacation with them, your profile on social media has a lot of footprint with them in your profile. Would you not change that? Would you not maybe take the profile picture with you and your friend and just make it yourself, or a photo with you and your girlfriend after you break up, remove her? Would you not do that? It's the same thing.
I would probably no. Even then, on my Facebook page, I'm not married anymore, but I think my wedding album's still up. I could remove it. I just don't. I'm just maybe it's just me and my brain. I just don't see the relevance of it. I just don't. For me,
a personal relationship is different though, Egal. If me and my partner broke up, and let's say we were engaged, married, or just dating,
you ain't got one.
I'm
you ain't got another half. Come on.
But you guys get my point.
Weird comment, but anyways, hypothetically speaking, I mean that is facts. I am single, so you got that one right. But let's just say you are actually with your partner, and you guys have engagement pictures, just dating, anything like that, and you break up. What is the point of keeping something personal like that on your timeline? Versus, okay, I'm a footballer that played for a certain club. Even if I am leaving, there's no rule that tells you must take down your posts before you move on to another club. There's footballers out there that still have pictures from their old club.
Staffy, it's calculated. It's calculated. It's a calculated measure. Sometimes it's a come get me, please. Sometimes it's a sign that player might be moving in the summer. And even if he doesn't move, he might have just archived them and he can put them back at any point. So it's not a thing where
it's not really to get me, please. If he wants to move, he's gonna go to his agent.
What channel are you going to, Egal, after you're leaving the terrace?
No, but You know what I mean, Terry.
No, I get you. I do get your points. I think they hold water. I've seen Liverpool fans melting down. I look at Nuno. I just look at Nunez and I just think, oh, how embarrassing. You know, I don't know. I just see it as strange. I don't like. There's people I block online that if I don't like the stuff they tweet about. Normally, I block people that not even for horrible reasons, like people that just tweet about politics all the time. I end up blocking or muting them just because I don't use Twitter for that, if that makes sense. I like my TL to be as football related as possible. So I mute things and block things that are just not of interest to me. But I follow people still that I don't necessarily like still. I don't get it. Maybe I'm just old man. But they did well yesterday. And I want to go to Gal first. They gave Liverpool. I know Spurs had a little bit of a comeback, miniature comeback in the 70th minutes, but they got another beatdown yesterday, Tottenham, didn't they, Gal?
Ange Postecoglou once again showing that he's not going to change his ways. He's gonna continue. He tried to slightly. He tried to improve his setup, and he tried to do something, but it didn't work. He got another beatdown, and I think that at this point in the season, they've just accepted that they're not going to get top four, and those players, you're going to blame the players, but I think it's on Ange. The way that these guys have dropped off from winning 10 games in a row to start the season to now basically having a 50-50 for the rest of the season, he needs to take a hard look at himself and say to himself, what have I done wrong? You can talk about injuries, you can talk about players being out of form, but Ange Postecoglou, when you first came in, we said, oh, what he's doing is great, but he never adapted. He never showed the tactical flexibility to win these games. And this game against Liverpool, after 45 minutes, after 50 minutes, it was done. Those two goals were consolation goals in the 72nd, 77th minute, and it was just fantasy stats for people who love fantasy. As for Liverpool, where was this versus Crystal Palace? Where was this versus West Ham? You guys should be looking at yourselves and saying to yourselves, why did you guys not show this level of effort versus Crystal Palace and West Ham? Maybe you could have still won this league. Maybe it is because it's a home game and it's do it for Klopp and it's at Anfield. You guys rose to the occasion. But I would be pissed off if I'm a Liverpool fan, just as much as I would be pissed off if I'm a Spurs fan losing 4 in a row. But at this point, both fan bases, their season's pretty much done. Liverpool's going to finish 3rd. Tottenham, who knows where they're going to finish. You just need to focus on winning your next game, because if you don't beat Burnley, that's going to be an utter embarrassment. And if Ange Postecoglou finishes the season off poorly and he starts the season off poorly next season, his job could be at risk in the second season. At this point, he doesn't look like he seems to be interested in addressing the issues that are at hand. He's just continuously saying, I need to keep to my philosophy. I think this weekend was the first eye-opener he had where he said, you know what, I might need to change something.
Egal, can I ask you, where was Ange supposed to change something? Because a lot of people sit here, and I'm sick of it, I'm not going to lie, sit here and say, Ange showed that he has no tactical adaptability. He should have done this, he should have done that. Actually, sorry, they don't say what they should have done. They just say, oh, he should have adapted. What is he supposed to adapt to?
Let me tell you. For the last 4 weeks, he showed that he continuously said that set pieces were not an issue, and then he did not address it after the Newcastle game, after the Arsenal game, after the and then he went on to the Chelsea game, had the same problem. His structure throughout those games, continuously, just one ball over the top. Boom, you're done. We've seen it with Kai Havertz over the top to Bukayo Saka. We've seen it to Isak in the Newcastle game. Continuously, one ball over the top destroys that whole back line. How can one ball destroy a whole back line that's supposed to be one of the best back lines in a couple of years? And also defensively, do you know they've conceded the fourth most goals conceded by a Tottenham team in the Premier League? So if that is not enough evidence for you that he needs to make changes, what else is?
How many goals in the last few games have they conceded from a counterattack?
I can't tell you exactly every
Majority
single one.
of our goals.
I just gave you multiple examples over multiple games.
You gave me the Saka one, and that one I agree with. When you look at their last 3 games, that was the only one.
And Isak over the top.
Yeah, of course. That game that got destroyed 4-0. I'm talking about since that game.
They've gotten destroyed by Arsenal. They got destroyed by Chelsea. They got destroyed by Newcastle and Liverpool on the bounce.
Yeah, but they didn't. Okay, so they didn't get destroyed from counterattacks in the last 3 games.
In the Fulham game,
in many different ways.
2 goals from counterattacks.
But 1 second, I don't know why you're doing this at this moment in time, because I've literally broken it down for you. They've been
because you're waffling, Egal. You just said set pieces, and when I asked you how many
counterattacks and their structure has been off from the jump. So he needed to address that. He went.
I don't
and had the same
necessarily think it's
issues
structure.
game after game.
Egal, the
I don't
last 3 games, and obviously I'm
last
gonna let
4
Henry
games,
go
he's
in
had
a
the
second
same
because
issue.
that's his team. Here's the thing: I defend Ange and I don't defend Spurs because I've been critical of Ange when it comes to the high line, and I've said it a lot throughout the season. I said his lack of adaptability actually pisses me off. But when you look at the last 3 games, he didn't lose because of a high line. He lost because of a lack of quality. He lost because his team can't box defend. You were right when you said that they're not good on set pieces, but you need a set piece coach for that. The manager has coaches working under him. There's an attacking coach, a defensive coach, a goalkeeper coach. I understand all of them work under him, and at the end of the day, you're going to blame him for certain things like that. But we can't be disingenuous and say his system has been found out when the last 3 games they lost wasn't because of the system. It was because of the lack of quality that they have in the front line. Yesterday, Dan was speaking about Emerson Royal not being good enough. And they're like, oh, don't talk about him, talk about Ange. How can I not talk about the defender who led to 2 goals out of the 4? He didn't mark Salah on the far post, and he gave away the ball for the...
Staffy, respectfully, when you're conceding 4, 3, 2, 4, you're telling me it's a problem with the attack. I'm sorry, it's not.
Egal, I said
structure.
it's a lack of quality.
1 second. It's a lack of structure and defensive awareness.
No, it is not, Egal. No, it is not, Egal. Yesterday, 2 balls over the top to Richarlison. He didn't finish his chances. If they score that, we're talking about Van Dijk. Son goes one-on-one with Alisson, misses a chance. And then on the other hand, Darwin Nunez goes one-on-one with the goalkeeper, misses his chance. One of them, they're saying good save, which is Alisson. The other one, oh, it's poor finishing. It's agendas. The Spurs players are not good enough. It's just so simple.
Guys,
you could be right about the players not being good enough, but these same players won 10 out of their first 10 games. These same players had the top 4 basically almost wrapped up and threw it away.
And you said he overachieved. You were one of the people that said he overachieved. So why are you using that as a metric now?
Staffy,
Don't just talk too much. Egal, no, this is what you do, Egal. You talk too much and you make so many points that we never revisit. You said they won I don't know how many of their first beginning games, and you said that was them overachieving. However it is, I don't care. They started magnificent. Yes, I understand that. But
because they were never going to be in a title race. That's why.
So how can you use that as a metric when you said that was an overachievement? You never said that was sustainable.
I'm not using it as a metric. I'm showing you how they've dropped off in many different areas of their game. You can talk about their attack. You can talk about their attack being poor, but you have Tottenham fans here right now. They'll tell you structurally they've not looked as solid. They've not looked as solid defensively in the last 10 games. Also, you can criticize the attack. You can say they have a lack of quality, but the manager has them in these games, and he's not making the right decisions. Continuously, the same issues are arising game after game.
They were dominating possession in most of these games.
Guys, let me just jump in the middle of this debate. It's really, really good. Henry, where do you stand on this debate? Listen to what Egal was said and what Staffy said. Ironically, a United fan and an Arsenal fan. How do you see it from a Spurs perspective?
What I would say is 2 things can be right at once. Yes, we are tactically naive in the fact that we are one of the worst teams in the league at defending set pieces, but we have a massive drop-off in the lack of quality. Yeah, for instance, Emerson Royal playing left back. If you look at the ball that goes into the front to the far post of Mohamed Salah, I can pretty much put a 90% chance if that is Destiny Udogie, he wins that header because he's better at man marking. That doesn't necessarily mean that Ange Postecoglou can't be critiqued and be criticised. We are that you might as well have copy and pasted the Brighton away game and put that Liverpool game. It's the exact same game. We went 4-0 down due to being outclassed. And then around the 68th minute in the Brighton game and around the 71st minute in the Liverpool game, we started playing football. I think it's a mixture of things. I think at some, I said this to you and Terry on Friday doing the squad. I think a lot of these players aren't playing for him. Like the drop off in quality between James Maddison, between Son, the only one of our front line that actually looked up for that game was Richarlison. And maybe you could say because he's played in a Merseyside derby before and because he's from Everton. But there's the second part of the argument is there is no tactical change from Ange. Like I'll give you an example, right? We had 15 days to prepare for the Arsenal game. Now, before that game going into it, I think we conceded 5 goals from the last 4 set pieces or something, some crazy stat like that. Arsenal weren't even at the races in terms of their quality, and they exploited our weaknesses. Ange Postecoglou has got to change for me a number of things. The defensive line has got to be dropped 7 to 8 yards deeper because we are so vulnerable to being counterattacked. But also, we need better quality in the players to be able to play Ange ball. The reason why the first 10 games we, I guess you could say, overachieved was because not a lot of teams to play Ange ball, and we had a fully fit squad. We had a fully fit Maddison firing on all cylinders. We had Van der Ven before a hamstring injury. We had Destiny, Udogie, and Porro without being running to the ground, having to play every minute of a game. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't criticise Ange ball. If we lose to Burnley, right, I believe there will be serious pressure on Ange Postecoglou. Like, serious pressure, because you then go into the next game, which will be Manchester City. And let's be honest, Nobbins will probably agree, they're going to steamroll us. Manchester City,
I hope so.
I will say right now, will score 4 goals at our stadium. They will score 4 goals because Guardiola will just say, hang on, we've got Ruben Diaz, who's very good in the air. We've got John Stones, we've got Haaland, and we can't defend set pieces. So Ange, as great as the argument is, the quality is poor, and yes, it is in some areas, he's not changing. This doesn't seem to be a plan B. And this has been his managerial career throughout the last 22 years he's been a manager. When you go back and look at his World Cup games, when he was the Australian coach, the play style, the style of play is exactly the same. Go back and look at Celtic or when he was in Japan. So unless we buy better players that can play Ange ball, we're never really going to see Ange Postecoglou excel, because the plan B, we just get ripped apart because there isn't one. So 2 things can be right. What I will say is, we lose to Burnley, our fan base, Kate will tell you, our fan base is one of the most toxic fan bases on social media. If we lose, everyone, I don't know what Kate's opinion is, everyone will be Ange out. Now, I'm not Ange out, but I'm struggling to argue with the people that are Ange in, because right now I don't see any progress. And this, if you look at our results since the Aston Villa game, which was 13th of March, 12th of March, if you look at our results, they're up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And that was what Arteta was like in his first year. That was what Klopp was like in his first year. Guardiola finished 3rd. He had a lot of ups and downs. And then what did all 3 managers do? They got their players and they started playing. The big question is Daniel Levy going to give Ange Postecoglou the players he needs? If he's not, we might as well get rid of Ange now and start again.
The one thing I won't accept is a comparison to Arteta, because Arteta, even in his first season when he was poor, one second. I don't know about. One second. Let me speak, guys.
Not my Arteta.
One second. The reason why I will not accept that is because even when Arteta did not have his players, he still set up the team tactically in a way to try to beat that opponent, and he changed the way he played. He actually played pragmatic to win us our FA Cup the first season, and we played a lot on the counter, and we're very defensive.
Can you not say we played? Can you not say we're playing well? We're averaging, I think we got the 4th highest possession in the Premier League behind Brighton, City, and Arsenal. But when we get to the final 30, Gal, we have nothing. Son's fallen off a cliff. Brennan Johnson, Terry will tell you, I was the only one when we was recording the squad that says Brennan Johnson can take a player on. That game, he might as well have not turned up.
That might be one of your biggest issues. But other issues that are happening in your squad, like your structure, like your high line, like
okay. So what in the structure can he change against the Burnley game?
One second. I'm not saying words. I'm actually addressing real defensive issues that they have.
Break down these words, Egal. Break them down.
Respectfully, let me get my point across, and then you can interject when I'm done.
I'm not interjecting. I'm asking you to break these down these words. I don't want to hear the same words.
But you don't even let me finish my point. So it's a minute point. If you're trying to challenge something, you don't even know where I'm going.
Go ahead.
My point is to compare Ange to any other manager when he doesn't show that he's clearly not addressing the issues that you have in hand game after game is a false comparison. Because Arteta, even though we were poor and we had deficiencies in our attack, we had deficiencies in our midfield, we had deficiencies in our defense. For God's sakes, we had Mustafi and David Luiz out there. He still tried to play different ways, and he showed different tactical ways of play. Where Ange, he specifically himself said for majority of the season, he's not going to change his ways. And that's where I challenge him. And I say, you know what? We cannot make those comparisons because he's not yet showed the flexibility.
In terms of the quality,
what I would say is that there is some value in being stubborn if you are a new manager, because Klopp did it with Liverpool, Pep did it at City. If you do stay consistent with that style of play, then you ultimately weed out players who out themselves as not being able to play that style. For example, I imagine there will be an upgrade in respect of Emerson Royale. I imagine there'll be an upgrade in terms of like some of the forward line. Like it happened with Klopp at Liverpool, it happened with Pep at City. He saw Zabaleta couldn't do it anymore. Sanya, Clichy, etc. So I take your point, Egal. Maybe there could be some flexibility, but I think that there might be more value in identifying the weak links.
There's nothing wrong with keeping your philosophy and your principles, but when you're on a 4-game losing streak and you clearly see you have an injury crisis, you have to make adjustments in game.
Let me add to that. I gotta add to that.
I want to get Kate's opinion, and I'll come back to you on that stuff. Sorry, Kate. Like, how do you view this debate? Like, where's your head at with this?
Don't dare compare Arteta to Ange. Egal, wow, you've got a real romantic obsession with Arteta. It's quite cringe.
It's not cringe. I told you why it's a comparison.
It is cringe. It is a little bit cringe.
No. When somebody says yes, like,
Can I speak now? Can I speak?
Okay, go ahead. But when you're wrong, I'm going to call you out.
Do you know what? In the first 10 games, we got 26 points, and in the next 24, we've got 32. I think had the games been more spread out, and we hadn't just had that block of sort of 10 games where we were sitting at the top of the table, and it had been more up and down, up and down, up and down, there wouldn't be this outcry on Ange. My view is he's not going to change. People can cry and say he's stubborn, he's this, he's that, and whatever, then that's fine. But he isn't going to change. He needs a better quality of player. Whether we get it is all down to Daniel Levy, which doesn't really bode particularly well. After Poch's first season, we were sitting in 5th and he was getting criticism from everybody. There's no patience in this fan base. As Emery said, there's just none. Everybody says at the start of the season, we just want to see us play some good attacking football. And we want, we've got to give this guy time. And already the Ange out brigade are screaming their heads off. I've had it all day today. It comes down to we need quality, not quantity this summer. And until we see what he's going to do this summer, we don't know what's going to happen. But I honestly can't see where the next win's coming from. I just can't. We should beat Burnley, but who knows? It's not a great place to be in, but it's going to be a painful project. It was always going to be a painful rebuild. We've still got so much deadwood left from years ago that are still at our team. So for me, it all looks at it's all going to be what happens in the summer, and see where we go from there.
Fair enough. I have to head off, bro. But I'm just gonna say this: if you guys want Ange Postecoglou to be a Premier League legend, all he has to do is beat Manchester City.
All right, I get what you're saying there. We
Arsenal.
Yeah, listen, viewers, make sure like buttons are being hit. Make sure you are subscribing.
I just wanted to make a point there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on. Finish that point, and we'll move on.
Because he went. Egal is an absolute hypocrite for that. Because if you ask Egal what's his main criticism of Ten Hag, he will tell you that Ten Hag came in last season. Because I've heard him say that, saying that Ten Hag was a coward. He gave up his philosophy. He went pragmatic, this, and that. And that's the same stick now we're using on the opposite side to beat up managers that want to implement a philosophy, that want to play a style of play, that Nubbin said it perfectly. When you implement a style of play like that, you start to weed out the players that are not good enough. That is the criticism that I've had all along of Ten Hag. So when people say I'm a hypocrite, I don't give Ten Hag the same energy, it's because Ten Hag is literally the polar opposite of Ange. One accommodated for the players and cowered out. One of them said, no, I don't have the players, but I will continue to play my style of play until I get the good ones to basically learn how to play it. And those are the ones that are going to stay. And when he came out and said a few days ago, some sales will be made and not everyone will be here. That's him saying that some players are not good enough and eventually will be replaced. We can move on eventually to a stage where, okay, the team is now sustainable. For them to win something, he needs to add a little bit more tactical flexibility. I agree with that. Because if you want to be a Pep, you want to be an Arteta, you want to be a club, you want to be whoever's around, you need to have tactical flexibility. But we're not at that stage yet. We're at a stage of him figuring out the good players from the bad players, having them play a style, and then the ones that are not good are going to go. It's just, the bad ones are going to go. It's just that simple.
I agree with that. And it's interesting because I've said that Ange has got to make changes, but I've had to be very careful how I word it. I'm talking about small, nuanced, intricate changes, not his overarching. His tweaks. No, it might be defensive line sits 2 yards further back. It might be, a bit more man-to-man marking on corners. I'm just making this up the top of my head right now because, I haven't personally delved into it that deep. But this idea that he should completely change the way he plays, I don't think that's true. And it's one of the reasons why I'm critical of Ten Hag. You can't play the way Ten Hag has done for 2 years and then suddenly go, right, now we're going to start to implement the new style, because then you are starting again with the weeding out process.
Also on that, Terry, one last very, very quick thing.
You've
also got to critique him because you can't play a midfield of Bissouma, Bentancur and Sarr and have absolutely zero creativity and leave Maddison and Lascelles on the bench.
I totally agree. And I think that's what I mean. I don't think Egal is wrong in everything that he said, but I totally get where Staffy is coming from as well. I think there's some definite balance that needs to be placed into this. Obviously, Arsenal had a good weekend again. I don't necessarily think we need to break down their game in particular. They look top class, and I put a video out yesterday. I'm like, they look top class, but are City actually going to slip up? It doesn't look like it. It almost looks as though both teams might win all their remaining games, and Arsenal are going to kind of go through potentially what Liverpool did on a couple of occasions, just being brilliant, but just not quite good enough to stop this phenomenal Manchester City team. But I wanted to ask a question about two players. I saw this stat that got pushed out, and I'm sad that Egal's gone, but we'll have to. Me and I'll be the Arsenal rep if you want, and everyone thinks I'm an Arsenal fan anyway. But
sad, speak for yourself. Me and Kate are celebrating.
Okay. Yeah, I love it, Gal. It says here, Declan Rice this season has more goal contributions, more big chances created, more interceptions, more blocks, more tackles won, more clearances than Rodri in the Premier League. I'm going to be careful how I word this. Which of the two has had the better season, in your opinion, Henry?
That's actually false, by the way. Rodri's got more assists in the league and more goals. If you actually look at the Premier League official website.
So it's because that was released before we played Wolves. So yeah,
Henry's right. Sorry.
Right. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to get TNT Sports posted. That's not my.
Yeah, it was right at the time, but Henry's correct. Since the Wolves game, I think
when you look at Declan Rice, when Partey has played the last number of games, Rodri, we all know, is the glue of Manchester City. I personally think is the most important player. I would have him over any other defensive player in world football. I think he's the closest thing the Spanish national team will see to a Busquets-esque player. I think Busquets is better personally, but Declan Rice is playing in a lot more advanced role. So naturally he's going to get more GA than Rodri. But overall, as a season and the last few, I guess you can only really judge it this season. He's been at Arsenal. I do think, with that all being said, that Rice has had the better season. I don't think he's the better footballer, because I think with Arsenal last year, we're in a title race, regardless of Declan Rice was there. If you take Rodri out of this City team, you're ripping out a lot of their spine there. I don't know if Nobbins and you guys would agree, but I think Rice has had the better season. Overall, I'm taking Rodri. I don't know what you guys think. If you look at Rodri, though, he had a massive goal against Bayern Munich away a few years ago. You know, he scored the Champions League final goal. I remember a few years ago at the Emirates, City were awful that game. Who picks up the goal? Rodri jumping in right in front of the City fans. He's a big game player, but this season for me, I think Rice has been better. I think he's, in terms of the 100 million signings we've seen, the Nunez 100 million euros, the Antony 100 million euros, the Grealish, Rice has kind of gone in and went, this is value for money. I don't know what you guys think, but that's me. I think Rice had the better season. Rodri's a better player.
I think that's fair. I personally don't agree, but I think that's definitely fair. For me, I think it's close. I think that's fine between the two. I just look at Rodri and what he's done this season and the impossible task he's been given. In terms of, we didn't replace Gundogan, so Pep's asked Rodri to be Rodri and Gundogan at times, which is mad. He has taken on this sort of like all-encompassing role, which he hasn't been able to do at times, to be fair. Like, I think of Stamford Bridge, he can't do it all on his own. I just think that, I agree with you, Henry. Rodri is our most important player.
I'd argue, Nobbins, he's the most important player for any team in the league in terms of the way they play.
Potentially, yes. I think that's fair. You know, it's pretty basic analysis, but the only game City have lost this season, Rodri hasn't featured in. You know, for example, Rodri's still on that mental run of 70 to 71 games without a loss, something mental like that. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a wrong answer. I'd personally just edge it more towards Rodri in terms of that. Rice has been fantastic, by the way. But yeah, but Rice has also, again, I agree with Henry, that there have been games this season where he's basically played as an out-and-out 8, with one Party or Jorginho being the proper 6 or DM. But yeah, I think Rice has been Arsenal's best player this season, definitely.
How do you see it, Kate?
I think when you look at Rice, the difference he's made to Arsenal, I think he was their missing piece. He's changed the way they look this season. He's been immense, better than I thought he would be. But I just think Rodri is probably one of the best players in the world. I think he's phenomenal. If I could pick any player to come to Spurs, it would be Rodri. I just think he's a different gravy. But I can understand where the argument is because, like I say, he's transformed Arsenal for me, Declan Rice, and some of his performances have been incredible. But yeah, for me, I will always choose Rodri because I just think he's different gravy. He's such a brilliant player. I'm
probably play them together.
Well,
we wanted to. We wanted Rice.
Pep wanted to, didn't he? So it's. Do you know what? I love the fact that listening to 3 opinions so far, we haven't had anyone try and make the other one sound crap, which is beautiful because I think in these conversations too often you'll get one group that will try and make the other player sound overrated or they're carried by their team. I think what goes against Rodri in this debate about this season is that I think we've become sometimes, I'm going to get the saying wrong, is it familiarity breeds contempt. And I almost maybe that isn't the right saying, but that's what popped into my head around. We're so familiar now with Rodri, maybe we don't recognize how good he is. You almost forget how good he is because it's become the norm. And I don't think anything should be taken away from him. He is absolutely tremendous at everything as a midfield player. Defensively, on the attack, he can carry the ball. There isn't an element, there isn't a skill set for a midfielder that he doesn't have, in my opinion, that's necessary for his role. Declan Rice, look, I think you think the £100 million price tag needs to be spoke about more in the sense of the way he's handled it and gone up a level himself. If you actually look through the record books of Premier League clubs that have spent £80 million or more on players, the lion's share are underwhelmed, done okay, right through to flopped. Declan Rice is one of the only ones who stands out as a player. If we could drop the money a little bit and go to 75 million, Van Dijk, of course, goes into that category. But he's come in, he's made Arsenal better. He has improved and gone to another level. And I'm quite proud of him because I remember talking about him to Man United fans for years. Don't want him, overrated, English hype. And I don't like that kind of... I don't think any footballer should ever be judged on their passport, no matter... where they're from around the world, but he was played down. It was almost laughed at and scoffed at that he would be this good a player. And I think he's gone into Arsenal and he's made them a top team now. Yes, there's still room for them to grow, and I still think they need to go and get more Declan Rices in different positions. I would probably agree with Henry, where if I was going to pick between the two, I would probably go with Rice this season, having handled that £100+ million price tag and turning down Man City, because that comes with its own sort of pressure. But I look at the two of them, and as a Man United fan whose midfield is weak,
same as us.
I look at both of them and just think to myself, wow, what tremendous players they both are. I saw the tweet from TNT Sport, and I saw a lot of the comments underneath and just thought, oh, why is everybody so salty? Why slag Rice off? Why slag Rodri off? And I'm so glad. I didn't brief you guys we were going to talk about it, but I'm quite glad to see everybody is giving an opinion, but being very fair.
On this quickly, if you look at the €100 million signings, I think, to my knowledge, out of the 15 or 14 signings that have been over 100 million in their first season, I don't think anyone's had a bigger impact than Declan Rice. You look at the Ousmane Dembele's, the Coutinho's, the Eden Hazard at Madrid, the Darwin Nunez was 100 million euros, Anthony.
Well, let's go through him here, Henry. Sorry to stop you. This is the Premier League's most expensive transfers. 85
look throughout Europe as well, because there's a lot in La Liga.
If we just stick to the Premier League for a minute, sorry, because not everyone's watched it. Jadon Sancho, 85 million. Harry Maguire, 87. This is in euros, by the way. Guardiola, 90 million. Anthony, 95 million.
Well.
Pogba 105 million, Lukaku 113 million. That was to Chelsea. Caicedo 116 million, Declan Rice 116, Jack Grealish 117, and Enzo Fernandez at 121 million euros. That's coming from the website Statistica. So you actually look at all those signings. Guardiola's done well, but outside of that, Grealish did well, I would say, but
Very well.
The rest of them, compared to what Declan Rice has done, it doesn't. And I think that element, like a lot of times when people do signing of the season, they do it pound for pound and they get a guy that's done really well at 20 million or really well at 30 million. I almost feel like this season, you have to factor in the pressure that comes with that price tag and how well he's delivered against it. And, you know, to even be spoken about and be close to Rodri in itself is a testament. But I agree with Henry. Rodri is the better player overall. But I think Rice this season deserves a nod slightly.
That could change though. If Rodri then has two absolute worldies, scores the winner at the Tottenham Stadium, scores the winner at Fulham, all of a sudden we're now going, hang on. Like that. If we're looking
Equally,
at
if he gets bossed by Manu in the FA Cup final, do you know what I mean?
we need Don here telling us that Enzo is the best £100 million signing.
You know, that's what's funny about the Enzo conversation. I understand that Arsenal are a better team. Okay, I totally get that. But when I look at the Enzo situation, and by the way, how good Chelsea have looked in their last few games without him, I'm not trying to, I know correlation and causation are not always the same thing, but sometimes I feel, and you do get this wrong, but when you sign players for a lot of money, quite often you see in a handful of games, you're like, yeah, this person's good, you know. Normally, you can tell pretty early. 18 months in, when someone's still looking average. I mean, how many players have turned it around after 18 months of not really delivering? Genuine question. I don't know how many. By the way, not at 18, at 22, at 23, 24. Maybe I'm being disrespectful. I don't know, but just me. Staffy, what's your take on it, mate?
Interesting debate. What do you mean? Oh no. What do you think I'm going to say? I mean, either way, I'm probably going to lose the conversation anyway.
You're going to side with me, Staffy. That's what you're going to
do. Most likely. I just think it's a weird comparison because once again, I feel like we keep comparing Rice to sixes, and he's not a six. I mean, Henry said it perfectly. He does play more advanced up the pitch. So I don't know why we keep comparing him to number 6 positions. Because Rodri, what he does on the ball is completely different to what Rice does on the ball. I mean, for starters, Rodri averages about 120 touches per game, whereas Rice has like almost 80. So it could just show you how much more time does Rodri spend on the ball than Rice. And rightfully so, because like Rice isn't that conductor anyways. He has better players in that midfield to probably move the ball around, whether it's Jorginho or Partey playing, or when Odegaard drops a little bit deeper and picks up the ball. But listen, Rice has been amazing this season. 100% I agree with everything what you guys said. He's been integral for them. He changed a lot for them this season. He's been a perfect replacement for Xhaka because, number one, he replaced the GA. I forgot how many goals and assists he said he had, Terry. But it's somewhere between... Xhaka had 14 last season, I believe. And
yeah, I think he's on 16 in totality goals.
Yeah, so it's about the same.
Nine assists, 7 goals, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so he's slightly above. So he replaced the goals and actually added a little bit more. And just the legs that he's added in that midfield, the physicality that he's added in that midfield, he's been amazing for them. And the leadership, that's something that you kind of can't quantify in numbers. It's more of an intangible. But he's added that as well. So he's been amazing for them. But I think Rodri is superior as a footballer. What Rodri does, I think Rodri is the best player in the world. And I love how the chat's saying I'm waffling. I'm basically repeating everything you guys said, but because I said it, I'm waffling. I just have these guys on strings.
You're a Knicks fan.
It is what it is, bro. It's just like
it's an interesting. Listen, I appreciate how you see football. I get they may not be the same type of player. I tend to look at it based on heat maps a lot of the time. In terms of, I know people say a 6 or an 8. I look at where players are when they touch the ball, and Rodri's heat map is a deeper red because he touches the ball more because the way City play football. But when you look at the area of the pitch that they both touch the ball in, they're really similar to each other. It's like with Odegaard and Bruno Fernandes. Although they play different positions in terms of the graphics on the screen. When you look at their heat maps, it's hard to tell who's who because the areas of the pitch they pick the ball up and they pass the ball from and everything else. It's very similar. So I think that's why it can be looked at in those ways. We have some super chats here. First one says, remember people saying Ndidi over Rice, Terry?
Whoever said that.
What I will say is, indeed, if you go back, say, 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of people were raving about the trajectory of Ndidi. He just stopped getting better. But what's also funny, I did see someone tweet this. I remember about 18 months ago being told that Zakaria and somebody else, I forget the name now, were light years ahead of Declan Rice. Samari, that was the one. Basuma. Even the stuff like I got my prediction about Basuma at Spurs has been wrong. I thought he was gonna be amazing for you all. But sometimes, again, I don't want to be a dig at Spurs, but I look at Maddison similarly at the moment. Maybe there's a reason why it was Spurs out of all of the top 6 teams that signed Basuma and Maddison, and the other top clubs and other top European clubs didn't want them. I'm not having a dig.
They're not playing in balanced midfields though. Well, when Maddison was at Leicester, you had Ndidi, Tielemans, and Maddison. With us, Terry, we're all over.
Hang on a minute. Sorry, is that Don or is that Don or is that?
I'm not even taking a dig. Hang on, hang on. I'm not Don. Right, I'm not going to tell you Madueke's a 1v1 demon because he had a couple of good games. Maddison does not. If you look how deep he's coming to get the ball, the same Harry Kane did the exact same thing because there's no creativity in our squad. So if you put Maddison in if you put Maddison in that 10 role at the Chelsea team, he would cook because there's balance there. With us, we've got too many similar profiles. Look at our midfield yesterday. Who's playing in the 10 out of Sarr, Bissouma, and Bentancur? Who's playing in the 8?
Hasn't Maddison been dropped because he's been so poor?
Yes, and that's why you can also critique him. I don't think he's been. I don't think he's been good at all since.
I think he's at Spurs because he's Spurs level.
Would you take him at United?
No.
I wanted at some point.
Not now that I've seen him at Spurs. Definitely. I probably would have done. That's what I'm saying. I said about Basuma. I said before I'd take Basuma at Man United. I wouldn't take him now. I think he's gone up a level. And
so you don't think of a better coach at United?
No. So I'll tell you this. I think you've got a good coach at your club. I think this is what's happened to Maddison so far this season. When you first started playing Ange ball, teams are open and attacking against you as well because they didn't know what to expect. And he had room and space to exploit like when he plays for Leicester because teams don't sit back against Leicester. Now teams are sitting deeper against you. He's got no space. And it's why it works the same for defenders and attackers. We know KDB is the best attacking midfielder that Europe's had for many years because he's always up against low blocks and he still scores, still finds the space, still creates. We know how good the defender Van Dijk is as a defender because all he's defending is one-on-one while he's exposed because they push such a high line. You can have some centre-backs who have great stats in a low block. Very different when you're defending near your halfway line. And same for attackers. It's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to create good numbers when you're up against a team that are pushing up and attacking in their space. You suddenly play against a team with 10 men behind the ball, 11 men behind the ball. It's a different kettle of fish. It really is for me. And that's not a dig. Maddison might improve next year. Basuma especially, I think, is proven that he ain't the elite level we all thought he might be. I think he's had his chance.
It's our midfield in general. Since March, none of our midfielders have been good. They've had 30 minutes good here, and we're changing it too much. 1 week it's Højbjerg and Bentancur, the next minute it's Sarr and Bissouma.
Yeah, I was going to finish these super chats here. This one here says, Goldbridge masterclass for making people listen to his podcast. So many falling for it. I mean, I think that's probably why City released their little statement to City Extra, just so that they were like, oh, we're feeding him here. We're feeding him. I know what's going on. Ten Hag is to blame for some stuff, but I'm not just looking at the bigger picture. By the way, it's just been announced by 2 different German specialists that Ten Hag now wants to become the Bayern Munich manager. So the man that you want to stay wants out oral. He wants to turn his back on the new ownership. How do you feel about that one? Tribalism is the worst kind of brain rot. Objectivity opens the mind to knowledge. I agree with that massively. There's times when you've got to be a bit tribalistic, but there are other times where, and it isn't even tribal anymore on socials over the team. People have become tribalistic over their opinions and the camp they sit within, if that makes sense. And I've seen a lot of people lose their minds over that. I heard Nunez missed the share button and pressed delete by accident, but like he misses his shots on goal. Staffy, a real one on here with the facts. Big up, Gunnar Paul. We love Staffy. Nunez was abused by some Liverpool fans who DM'd him, so it's disrespectful from it. I mean, yeah, but deleting, it's weird, isn't it?
It's mad.
It's like if one of my children's horrible to me, I'm not going to go and rip the photos up of the other ones. That'd be a bit weird, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? Freya tells me that Freya says she don't love me anymore because I said she couldn't have another chocolate, and I go and rip up Jackson's pictures. It's a bit strange. Is Nobbins annoyed because the Sheikh didn't ask him to take City's case? I have £115 spare for super chats. Love you, Terry, bro.
That conversation was over 40 minutes ago, Paul. Maybe move on.
In fairness, he super chatted 40 minutes ago. He did. To be fair, sorry. That's my fault. Sorry, Nobbins.
I think Paul is jealous of you, Nobbins.
I think he might.
Okay. Yeah, well, it must be because he's spending how much money to engage with me. I take it as a compliment to him. But yeah, that conversation was a while ago. Maybe move on.
Respectful shout out to Kate for keeping it real the other day and acknowledging Spurs aren't near Arsenal's level at the moment. Rome wasn't built in a day. Big up yourself, Sonny boy. Stop comparing Arteta to Klopp. Beyond embarrassing. Why are we acting like Ange ball with some revolutionary new way of playing? Australian Bielsa. So Erin says here. Thank you, Erin. When you clock that your club is cursed, you will never win anything again. Maybe your great grandkids have a nice evening.
Hang on. They've got on. Let's just move on.
Yeah, Ange needs better in-game management within his style. He doesn't have the quality. Forcing his style on those players makes his style look bad, is what Dio says.
You don't need a better style to have Emerson Royal mark Salah.
Yeah,
you don't need better quality to tell Emerson Royal not to turn into two defenders when he has Salah and someone else on him in his final third. Sorry, in his first third. That's not a system. That's just literally quality, bro.
Big up to the panel. To the people using Arteta as a shield, did you defend him the same way you're defending Ange now? It's hindsight analysis. Otherwise,
Can I answer this? Because Egal mentioned this earlier. So Arteta did a great job before everyone gets mad at me. Arteta, the first 2 seasons, played with a back 3, which he doesn't do right now. So it just shows you that there was an evolution with the way that he plays. So when we talk about Ange, we should be comparing him more to, as Nubbin said, you should compare him more to what Pep and Klopp did in the first year. Not obviously in terms of quality because they're superior managers to him, but in terms of persisting with their philosophy until they got the real quality players and eventually won something. Let me just use Klopp because that's easier. I can't compare anyone to Pep. Klopp finished 8th in his first season, and he celebrated the end of that season because he knew he was making progress with that team. He was playing a high line with Lucas Leiva and them men in the midfield. And eventually when he replaced them with quality and he got the Wijnaldums and the Fabinhos and all these players and he improved Henderson and all these players, they start showing results. Why is one manager eventually being looked at? That's why revisionism is crazy. I bet you back then, I don't know if Terry was doing the terrors back then when Klopp took over, but I bet you if he was doing content at that time, people were giving Klopp the same stick when he finished 8th and playing this gung-ho football and ganging press. But eventually in about 3-4 years when he won a Champions League, everyone looked back at it and he said, you know what, look, the revisionism now. Oh, that was so great. It was so great. The same thing we did, by the way, with Arteta, even though he did it in a different way. Like he's finishing 8th. At least Ange is still going to finish them in a Europa League spot. Why are we dismissing the fact that he already is going to have more points than last season and he's got him in a European spot playing better football?
But I also think, as I've always said, because I've been called out about why do I have a different energy for Ten Hag than I do Arteta, as an example, and I view the situations are different because I've learned a lot. And over the past, since starting the Football Terrace, ironically, back to that other tweet earlier around dropping the tribalism all the time, being more open-minded, I've learned things. My opinion on football has definitely molded and changed because it's malleable over the past 4, 5, 6 years. So do I have the same energy now towards managers as I did maybe 4 or 5 years ago? Probably not. I've said with Big Ange, I think there's areas to criticize him with, but there's also lots of things to be positive about, and he needs to be, I think he's done enough to be backed at least. This year says, Wright is a 6 for God's sakes. Go ask David Moyes. Arteta has a what?
Penchant.
Penchant. Is that what? Okay, I've never read that word before. I was going to say penchant. I was like, what the fuck is a penchant? Okay. For playing his players in multiple positions. White, Partey, Kivior, Hazard, Trossard, the list goes on. Staffy is waffling.
How am I
Oh,
waffling?
Every day is waffling.
How am I waffling?
Hang on, you could say something
when
about Pep. Vardyal's a centre back. He plays him left back. He plays Stones in midfield. He's played Rodri in the 8 before. Foden's played in the false 9. Like their ideology of football is everyone should be able to play multiple positions.
100%. 100%. But here's the thing: when the lineup comes out, what do you see in that midfield? You see Partey, who's back now, or Jorginho, who holds the 6. And then you got Rice, and then you got Odegaard. This is why I don't understand. If they take a defensive shape, I don't know. Let's say off the ball, Rice kind of drops as a double pivot. Then yes, technically he's a 6 at the moment. But when you're on the ball, he is not a 6. That's what I'm saying. When we're comparing him to Rodri, they're not the same player. And he said Moyes used to play defensive low block football with him as Souček. That is completely different than playing that's completely different than playing front on the front foot for Arsenal, where you're dominating possession for about 60% to 70% of the game, and you have 1 6 who's just conducting everything. That's what Jorginho is. Jorginho is a 6. That's not a debate. Rice, yeah, he can play a 6, but he's not a 6 right now. He plays in the 8. I don't understand why. That's hard to understand.
Roy saying, Roy Keane. Sorry, Roy Keane saying Haaland is League 2 is as bad as Hamza saying Haaland is better than R9. Big up to Kate. Was great watching your show. Is what Gunnar in the Canadian Rockies has got to say. Terry, you've been misinformed. I'm just reading the articles. I've not been misinformed. They state that he's open to the job.
So Earl has better sources than them. That's what he said.
There we go. I want to shout out our title sponsors. You've still got an hour before you can play Match Bingo for the Crystal Palace Manchester United game. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link below to get yourselves signed up now. That Man United, the team news has just come out for Man United, by the way. And yes, Bruno Fernandes misses out entirely for that game. So you want to go get playing this tonight. Hopefully you get a good bingo card that goes your way. I had a penalty needs to be scored on mine, I think, which means we're in trouble now. But Man United starting up Onana. This is just in order of number, I think. But Onana, Mount starting his first game in a while. Haaland, Eriksen, Garnacho, Casemiro as a captain tonight. Delo, Anthony, Wan-Bissaka, Evans, and Mainu, which looks like, oh my God, it's an Eriksen Mainu double pivot with Evans and Casemiro as centre backs.
Horror. That is horror.
The bench, by the way, barring the only Ahmad and Amrabat are recognisable. The rest of them are literally the kids. It's all kids. So there's no wow. Well,
wait, who's the backline, Terry? I missed that. Say that again.
The backline will be Delo, Wan-Bissaka, Casemiro, and Evans.
Didn't you play Casemiro in an away game that you won? Was it 3 weeks ago?
He's played every game in centre back since the Coventry game. That's what I said 3 weeks ago when Oral was waffling and said,
who did you beat recently? You won.
No one.
We didn't win recently. We haven't won a game in the league. I forgot since when.
I'm just checking now. Our last no, that's not strictly true. Actually, we beat Sheffield United 4-2. We beat Sheffield United 4-2.
Did he play centre back that game?
He did. Yes, he's played centre back for our last
3 games.
3 or 4 matches. Yeah,
2 again.
Yeah, but we've won one game in the Premier League since the middle of March.
That's
Come on, Palace.
We're really not good.
We've had 1 clean sheet since March 9th, by the way, if anyone is
madness.
So it's almost
Listen, people, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank our title sponsors, all the super chatters, you're amazing. All of the viewers, you're the best. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. We'll see you at full time after Palace versus Manchester United. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I will see you all again very, very soon. Peace.